entitled "Mom Tried to Steal My $1,500 Stroller at the Zoo." When she refused to give back my baby's life-saving medication, I didn't just call security, I had her arrested for attempted kidnapping. Being a first-time mom is a special kind of terror. You live in a constant state of low-grade panic, convinced that you're one wrong move away from accidentally ruining this tiny, perfect human you've been entrusted with. My daughter Lily is 10 months old, and she is my entire world. She also has a list of severe allergies that could fill a phone book. Peanuts, dairy, soy, you name it. It makes every outing feel like a high-stakes military operation. And for our first big solo mission, a trip to the city zoo, I had prepared accordingly. My weapon of choice? The stroller. Now, I know it sounds ridiculous to get emotional about a stroller, but this thing, it was my unicorn. It was a top-of-the-line model, the kind you see in magazines, and I had saved for 6 long months to buy it. It wasn't about the brand name. It was about the features. It had a full-coverage sun canopy to protect her sensitive skin, an air-purifying filter built into the bassinet, and a suspension system smooth enough to navigate the zoo's bumpy cobblestone paths without waking her. It was my fortress on wheels, and I had customized it. I'd ordered a little leather tag for the handlebar, with her initials LC elegantly monogrammed on it. I'd attached a special, heavy-duty carabiner clip to the side, specifically to hold her bright red medical bag, which was always packed with 2 EpiPens and a list of emergency contacts. And dangling from the canopy was a small, hand-knitted octopus with rainbow-colored tentacles that my own mother had made for her. Lily couldn't sleep without it. It was her constant companion. So as I walked through the zoo gates on that beautiful sunny Tuesday morning, I felt confident, prepared. The sun was warm, Lily was gurgling happily in her little fortress, and I had everything I could possibly need to keep her safe and happy. For the first time in 10 months, I didn't feel like a terrified rookie mom. I felt like I actually had this under control. Of course, that was my first mistake. I had prepared for everything except the one thing I never saw coming. Another mother who wanted my fortress for herself. I had my first encounter with her about an hour into our visit, in the line for an overpriced iced coffee. I was standing there gently rocking the stroller back and forth as Lily dozed when I heard a loud theatrical sigh behind me. I turned to see a woman with a sour, pinched expression, standing behind a stroller that was, to my surprise, the exact same model as mine. But hers was well-loved. The fabric was faded, one of the wheels had a distinct wobble, and the frame was covered in scuffs and scratches. She was with a man who looked utterly exhausted and a toddler who was in the beginning stages of a full-blown tantrum. She wasn't looking at me, but she was clearly talking for my benefit. "Look, honey," she said to her husband, her voice just a little too loud. "That's the new model. The one with the better suspension. Must be nice to have something that isn't a hand-me-down." I could feel my cheeks flush. It was so obviously a dig, so pointedly passive-aggressive. I turned back around, pretending I hadn't heard her, and focused on the menu board. But I could feel her eyes on the back of my head. When I finally got my coffee and turned to leave, she was staring right at me. She gave me a smile that didn't even come close to reaching her eyes. It was a tight, unpleasant little smirk, a look that was both dismissive and hungry. It was the kind of look that makes the little hairs on the back of your neck stand up. I just gave a weak, polite smile in return and quickly pushed my stroller away, my heart beating just a little bit faster. It was a weird, uncomfortable interaction, but I just chalked it up to another stressed-out parent having a bad day. I told myself to forget about it. She was just a random, bitter stranger. I had no idea that in less than an hour, that same stranger would try to walk away with my entire world. The penguin exhibit was, of course, packed. It's the most popular attraction at the zoo, a chaotic swirl of squealing toddlers and overwhelmed parents. To manage the chaos, the zoo had set up a designated stroller parking area, a small, roped-off section where you could leave your stroller while you took your kid up to the glass to see the penguins swim. I saw at least a dozen other strollers lined up, a few of them even the same brand as mine. I unbuckled Lily, hoisted her onto my hip, and parked my pristine, perfectly organized stroller neatly in an open spot. My diaper bag, my wallet, my keys, Lily's precious rainbow octopus. It was all tucked securely inside. I spent maybe 2 minutes at the glass. Lily was mesmerized, her little fingers tapping against the thick acrylic as the penguins shot through the water like tiny torpedo-shaped acrobats. It was a perfect, sweet moment. When I turned to go back, my heart did a little stutter step in my chest. My stroller was gone. In its place, in the exact spot where I had left my unicorn, was her stroller. The one from the coffee line. The faded fabric, the wobbly wheel, the scuffed-up frame. It was unmistakably hers. For a second, I was just confused. My brain couldn't quite process it. She must have grabbed mine by mistake, I thought. An honest mistake. It was crowded, and the strollers were the same model. It was annoying for sure. My perfectly organized bag was gone, and hers had a half-eaten bag of Cheetos spilling out of the side pocket. But it was just an accident. I scanned the crowd, my annoyance growing, and spotted her not too far away, by the entrance to the sea lion show. She was pushing my stroller, my unicorn, as if it were her own. I took a deep breath, plastered a polite, "We're all tired parents here" smile on my face, and started walking towards her, completely unaware that I was about to walk into the most surreal and infuriating confrontation of my entire life. I still thought it was just an honest mistake, but I was about to find out just how wrong I was. I caught up to her just as the sea lion show was about to start, the sound of barking animals and cheerful music filling the air. I kept my voice light and friendly, the universal tone of a mom trying to handle a situation without making a scene. "Excuse me," I said with a polite smile. "Hi again. I think we accidentally swapped strollers back at the penguin exhibit. This must be yours." She didn't even look up from her phone, just kept scrolling with her thumb. "Doubt it," she said, her voice flat and dismissive. "Mine's right here," my smile faltered. "No, I'm pretty sure that's mine," I said, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. "The one you have is the newer model. And you have my diaper bag." I pointed to the small leather tag hanging from the handlebar, the one I had been so proud of. "See, this one is mine. It has my daughter's initials on it, LC." She finally looked up from her phone, her eyes scanning the tag with a bored indifference. Then she looked at me and scoffed, a little puff of air that was pure condescension. "Oh, please," she said, rolling her eyes. It was an honest mistake. They all looked the same. "Don't be so dramatic." She made a vague gesture to the stroller she'd left behind, the old, beat-up one. "Just take that one and go. It's not a big deal, not a big deal." I felt a flash of anger, hot and sharp. "It is a big deal," I said, my voice losing its friendly tone. "I'd like my stroller back, please." I was still trying to be reasonable, to believe that this was some bizarre, entitled misunderstanding. I had no idea that this wasn't about a simple mistake. It was about something much more valuable, something she was refusing to give back. And that was my daughter's EpiPen. The politeness evaporated from my voice. The friendly, "we're all moms here" facade just fell away. This wasn't about a simple mix-up anymore. This was about my daughter's safety. My voice dropped, becoming hard and clear. "Actually, it is a very big deal," I said, my eyes locked on hers. "My daughter's medical bag is in there." I pointed to the bright red bag, still hanging from the special clip on the side of my stroller. "It has her EpiPens." The words hung in the air, but she just stared at me, her expression a blank wall of disbelief. I pressed on, the panic starting to rise in my throat like a tide. "My wallet and my car keys are in that bag, too," I said, my voice getting louder now. "We need to switch back. Now." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her husband's face change. The exhaustion in his eyes was replaced by a flicker of genuine alarm. He put a hand on her arm, his voice a low, nervous whisper. "Honey," he said, just give it back. It's not worth it." She didn't even look at him. She just shook his hand off her arm with a sharp, aggressive movement, her eyes still fixed on me. "Be quiet, Dan," she hissed before turning her full, venomous attention back to me. Her lips curled into that same ugly, smug smile I'd seen at the coffee line. "Oh, I see what you're doing," she said, her voice dripping with fake understanding. "The EpiPen story. A classic. You're lying to try and get a new stroller out of us." I am not falling for it. She actually thought I was making it up. She thought I would lie about my daughter's life-threatening allergies just to get back a piece of baby equipment. The sheer, breathtaking entitlement of it all left me speechless. It was in that moment I realized she hadn't made a mistake at all. She had switched them on purpose, and she had no intention of switching them back, because in her mind she deserved it more than I did. I tried one last time to appeal to her as a mother, as a human being. The panic was a tight band around my chest now. "Please," I begged, my voice cracking. "My daughter could have an allergic reaction at any moment. I need her medicine, please. Just give me my bag." That's when the last shred of civility, the last pretense of a misunderstanding, just vanished. Her face twisted into a sneer of pure, ugly triumph. The fake smile was gone, replaced by a look of undisguised contempt. Well, maybe you should have thought of that before flaunting your expensive things all over the zoo. She spat, her voice dripping with venom. My son deserves nice things too. He shouldn't have to be pushed around in a broken-down piece of junk just because we aren't as rich as you are. She gestured vaguely at my simple jeans and t-shirt, as if I were dripping in designer labels. Look at you, she said, her eyes filled with a resentful jealousy. You can obviously afford to go out and buy a new one. For us, this is a lucky day. A little bit of karma, you know. I just stared at her. I couldn't form words. The sheer, breathtaking audacity of it, the absolute cruelty of her logic. It was stunning. She hadn't just stolen my property. She was justifying it. She had seen something she wanted, something she felt entitled to, and she had taken it, without a single thought for the consequences. And my daughter's safety? My daughter's life? That was just an inconvenient detail in her story of righteous theft. She was proud of what she had done. I finally found my voice, but I didn't get a chance to use it. Just over her shoulder, I saw a young man in a zoo uniform walking towards us, and a wave of relief washed over me. Finally, someone in charge, someone who could put an end to this madness. Just as my hope surged, I managed to flag down a passing security guard. He couldn't have been more than 20 years old, a kid with a nervous expression and a uniform that was a size too big for him. Excuse me, I said, trying to keep my voice calm and steady. This woman has taken my stroller by mistake, and she's refusing to give it back. My daughter's medication is inside. The moment the guard turned his attention to us, the entitled mom transformed. Her sneering, contemptuous expression dissolved, and was instantly replaced by a mask of pure, theatrical victimhood. Her eyes welled up with crocodile tears. She clutched her chest, her voice rising into a hysterical wail. "Oh, thank God you're here, officer," she cried, pointing a trembling finger at me. "This crazy woman is trying to steal my stroller. She's trying to take my baby." The poor kid looked completely and utterly overwhelmed. His eyes darted back and forth between us, between the two nearly identical strollers and the two crying babies, hers now wailing from her theatrics, and my own Lily, who had started to fuss in my arms. He was a teenager who had been trained to handle lost children and tell people not to feed the monkeys, and he had just walked into a situation that was far, far above his pay grade. He held up his hands, a placating gesture that was so useless it was almost comical. "Okay, ladies, please," he stammered, his face flushing a deep red. Let's just all calm down." He looked at me, then at her, then back at the two strollers, his face a perfect picture of bewildered helplessness. "Look," he finally said, taking a step back, I can't get involved in a property dispute. That's a civil matter. You two are just going to have to work this out yourselves." And then, before I could even protest, he turned and walked away, practically fleeing the scene. The entitled mom's fake sobs immediately stopped, and that ugly, triumphant smirk returned to her face, emboldened by his complete and utter uselessness. She clearly thought she had won, and that this was her chance to finally get away with it. That smirk. It was the last straw. "See?" she sneered, her voice dripping with smug satisfaction. "Even he knows you're crazy." She turned my stroller, my daughter's stroller, and started to push it away as if the matter was settled. Something inside me just snapped. The fear and the panic were still there, but they were now overshadowed by a cold, hard resolve. I moved without thinking, stepping directly into her path, my body blocking her escape. I placed my hand firmly on the handlebar. My voice was low and it didn't shake. "You are not walking away with my daughter's medicine." Her eyes widened, shocked that I would dare to physically stop her. Her face twisted into a mask of pure rage. She shoved me, hard, knocking me off balance. "Get your hands off my property!" she shrieked, her voice attracting the attention of people nearby. "I'll have you arrested for assault. I'll tell them you attacked me." But I didn't move. I just regained my footing, my hand still gripping the handlebar. I looked her dead in the eye, and I calmly pulled my phone from my pocket. My thumb was steady as it unlocked the screen. "I am going to call 911, I said, my voice as even and as cold as a frozen lake. "And I am going to report an attempted kidnapping. You are knowingly in possession of my infant daughter's life-saving medication and are refusing to return it. That is a crime. This is your last chance to give me back my property and walk away." She just stared at me, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes for the first time. She laughed, a short, nervous bark. "You're bluffing," she said, her voice lacking its earlier conviction. "You're insane," I didn't say another word. I just pressed the green call button and lifted the phone to my ear, making sure the screen was visible to her as I did. I wasn't bluffing. And as the sound of the 911 dispatcher's voice was about to fill the air, I watched the smug entitlement on her face finally, blessedly, begin to curdle into pure, unadulterated panic. She laughed, but it was a brittle, hollow sound. "You're bluffing," she said, her voice wavering. "You're completely insane." I didn't say a word. I just pressed the button for my speakerphone, turning the volume all the way up. A calm, professional voice filled the air, cutting through the cheerful sounds of the zoo. 911, what is your emergency?" I held the phone up, my eyes locked on the woman's face. My voice was as steady as a surgeon's hand. "Hello, I am at the city zoo near the sea lion exhibit. A woman has stolen my stroller, which contains my infant daughter's life-saving medication and my personal identification. She is refusing to return them and is attempting to flee." I was precise. I was factual. I used the words the dispatcher would understand. Stolen, life-saving medication. Flee. The effect was instantaneous. It was like watching a dam break. The color drained from her face, leaving her with a pasty white complexion. Her smug, entitled smirk vanished, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated panic. Her hands, which had been gripping the handlebar of my stroller in a possessive death grip, flew off as if the handle had suddenly become red hot. The stroller, my stroller, just stood there between us. Her husband, who had been standing behind her looking like a terrified mouse, finally sprang into action. He rushed forward, his hands flapping in a useless, panicked gesture. Okay, just hang up the phone," he pleaded, his voice a high-pitched whine. "We'll give it back. Just hang up. It was a mistake. A mistake!" But it was too late for that. The dispatcher was already speaking, her voice calm and authoritative. "Okay, ma'am, I'm dispatching officers to your location now. Do not approach the individual. Can you give me a description?" I started to describe the woman, but I didn't have to finish. In the distance, I could hear a sound that was far more effective than any of my words. The unmistakable rising wail of sirens. And they were getting closer. It felt like less than a minute before 2 police cars, lights flashing but sirens now silent, pulled up onto the plaza, scattering a flock of pigeons. The arrival of actual professional law enforcement drew a crowd instantly. People stopped, phones came out, and a circle of curious onlookers formed around us. The entitled mom, seeing the officers approach, seemed to regain a sliver of her theatrical confidence. Her panic instantly morphed back into a performance of high drama. She started screaming, her voice a shrill, piercing wail, pointing a shaking finger at me. "There she is, officer!" she shrieked, tears now streaming down her face for real. "That woman? She's trying to frame me. She's trying to steal my stroller. She's crazy." The lead officer, a tall, calm woman with tired, no-nonsense eyes, didn't even look at her. Her gaze was fixed on me, on the crying baby in my arms. "Ma'am," she said, her voice a calm anchor in the middle of the storm. "Can you please tell me what's going on?" I took a deep breath, my voice shaking just a little, and I explained everything. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just gave her the facts. I told her about the stroller parking, the switch, and the confrontation. I pointed to the monogrammed leather tag, still hanging from the handlebar of my stroller. "That one is mine," I said, my voice steady. "You can see my daughter's initials, LC. And inside the red bag attached to the side is my wallet. With my driver's license, and more importantly, my daughter's 2 EpiPens with her name, Lily Clark, on the prescription label." The officer nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving my face. Then she turned to the entitled mom, who was still sobbing hysterically. Her voice was still calm, but it had an edge of steel to it now. "Ma'am," she said, "can you please confirm the contents of the bag you are claiming as your own?" The woman's sobs hitched. Her eyes darted around wildly, a cornered animal looking for an escape. I don't know," she stammered. "Diapers, wipes, the usual things." The officer just stared at her, her expression unreadable. "And what about the medication, ma'am?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "Can you tell me the name on the prescription?" The woman just stared back, her mouth opening and closing, but no words came out. She couldn't answer, because she had no idea what was inside. In that moment, I knew it was over. The lie had completely unraveled, and the only thing left to do was watch it fall. Without waiting for a reply, the officer calmly reached into the red medical bag still clipped to my stroller. Her movements were slow, deliberate, for everyone in the growing crowd to see. She reached in and pulled out my wallet. She held it up, showing my driver's license through the clear plastic window. Then she reached in again and pulled out the 2 EpiPens. She held one up to the light, her eyes scanning the prescription label. She then looked directly at the entitled mom. "Can you please explain?" she asked, her voice dangerously calm. "Why this woman's driver's license and her child's prescription medication are in your possession?" The woman was completely speechless. Her face, which had been a mask of hysterical victimhood, was now just blank with shock. It was a misunderstanding," she stammered, the words barely a whisper. We got them mixed up." The officer didn't even blink. She just shook her head, a small, sad, and final gesture. She put my wallet and the EpiPens on the seat of the stroller and then looked at the woman. "Ma'am," she said, her voice now firm, leaving no room for argument. "Please turn around and put your hands behind your back." The woman just stared at her, as if she couldn't comprehend the words. "What?" she whispered. But the officer just repeated the command, and her partner stepped forward. And then, in the middle of the crowded zoo plaza, with a dozen cell phones recording, I heard the sound. A sharp metallic click-click that cut through the air. The sound of handcuffs being locked into place. I watched as they led her away, her face a mask of stunned disbelief, as if she truly, genuinely could not believe that there were consequences for her actions. And as I finally reached out and took hold of my own stroller, my own daughter's lifeline, I couldn't help but wonder. Had I gone too far? While one officer took my official statement, I gently buckled Lily back into her rightful throne. She immediately grabbed her little rainbow octopus, her security blanket, and popped her thumb in her mouth, her big, tear-filled eyes staring up at me. I stood there, rocking the stroller, answering the officer's questions in a low, tired voice, the adrenaline slowly starting to drain out of me, leaving a profound, bone-deep exhaustion in its wake. And as I spoke, I watched the final act of the drama unfold. The police were leading the woman away now, her hands cuffed behind her back. Her hysterical performance was gone, replaced by real, ugly, shuddering sobs. She kept her head down, a curtain of greasy hair hiding her face, as they led her on a walk of shame right through the middle of the crowd. And the crowd? They were silent, but their phones were all out. A sea of little black rectangles recording every humiliating second. Her husband, the meek, terrified-looking man, trailed behind them like a lost puppy, trying to explain to the other officer that it was all a big mistake, that his wife was just having a bad day. But the officer wasn't listening. He just kept walking, his hand firmly on the woman's arm. I watched them disappear around the corner, towards the main entrance and the waiting police cars. And I felt a wave of pure, unadulterated relief. It was over. I had my daughter, I had her medicine, and we were safe. But right behind that relief, a small, unwelcome seed of doubt began to sprout in my mind. The image of her, sobbing, being led away in handcuffs. I hadn't wanted that. Not really. I had just wanted my stroller back. I had wanted to protect my daughter. Did I have to take it that far? Did I have to escalate it to the point of a criminal arrest? Had I just ruined this woman's life over a piece of baby equipment? I pushed the thought away, telling myself I had done the only thing I could do. But as I pushed my stroller towards the exit, away from the prying eyes of the crowd, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I had no idea that the public shame of the arrest was nothing compared to the private war her family was about to wage against me online. By the time I got home and put Lily down for her nap, my phone was already buzzing. A friend had texted me a link to the local news station's Facebook page. "Is this you?" the text read. I clicked the link and my stomach plummeted. There it was. A shaky 10-second cell phone video, filmed by one of the onlookers at the zoo. It showed the police officer putting the handcuffs on the entitled mom, her face a mask of shocked tears. The video already had over 50,000 views, and the comments, they were a cesspool. But it wasn't until an hour later that the real coordinated attack began. A woman, who identified herself as the entitled mom's sister, posted a long, rambling screed in the comments section. It was a masterpiece of revisionist history. She claimed I was a wealthy, stuck-up snob who had maliciously entrapped her poor, innocent sister over a simple, honest mistake with a stroller. She said her sister was a loving mother who was just having a bad day, and that I had preyed on her vulnerability to create a dramatic scene. She completely omitted the part about the stolen medical bag, the EpiPens, and her sister's refusal to give them back. The mob mentality took over instantly. Her story, the one where she was the victim and I was the villain, spread like wildfire. Suddenly, my own Facebook profile was flooded with friend requests from strangers. Then came the private messages. Dozens of them. They called me every name you can imagine. They told me I was a horrible person, that I deserved to have my own child taken away. And then, it got worse. Someone found my home address and posted it in the comments section. They posted my phone number. They posted the name of the daycare Lily attended. My private, safe little world had been cracked wide open, and the entire internet was pouring in. I sat there, staring at my phone, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it. This was my punishment for protecting my child. This was my reward for standing up to a bully. I called the police, my voice a trembling whisper as I filed a report for online harassment. The officer was sympathetic, but he told me there was little they could do. And then I did the only thing I could. I deactivated every single one of my social media accounts, cutting myself off from the world in a desperate attempt to feel safe again. But the damage was already done. And now I wasn't just facing an entitled stranger in court. I was facing an entire army of them online. Months of legal wrangling, of stressful meetings with lawyers and victim advocates, finally came to an end last week. I got a call from the district attorney's office. The woman on the other end, a kind-sounding paralegal, gave me the final update. The entitled mom, faced with the overwhelming evidence, the video, my testimony, the monogram tag, and the prescription with my daughter's name on it, had finally accepted a plea deal. They had dropped the attempted kidnapping charge, a charge my own lawyer had told me was a long shot anyway, in exchange for her pleading guilty to grand theft and misdemeanor child endangerment. Her sentence? 2 years of probation, mandatory weekly anger management classes, and a lifetime ban from the city zoo. There was no jail time, no massive fine. But there was accountability, an official permanent record of what she had done. The aftermath of that day has been complicated. Because of the doxing, my husband and I had to spend $1,000 we didn't really have on a new home security system. Every time a strange car drives slowly down our street, my heart still does a little flip in my chest. I don't think that feeling will ever go away completely. And the online harassment, though it's died down, has left a permanent scar. It's a terrifying thing, to have a mob of strangers decide they know your story, and decide that you are the villain in it. But even with all of that, even knowing the months of stress and fear that would follow, I have to say, I have zero regrets. I would do it all again in a heartbeat. Because the moment that woman looked me in the eye and sneered that my daughter's life-saving medication was less important than her own desire for a new stroller, it stopped being about property. It stopped being about a simple theft. It became about a fundamental primal duty. The duty of a mother to protect her child at any cost. And in the end, that's a choice I would make and a price I would pay. Every single time. And that's where we'll leave our narrator for today. It's a story that starts with something almost comically petty, a dispute over a stroller, and spirals into a situation with life or death stakes. It's a stark reminder of how quickly the mundane can become terrifying when it collides with a certain kind of profound, unshakable entitlement. And that really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is it that allows someone to see a child's life-saving medication as less important than a material object? It's more than just jealousy. It's a complete failure of empathy, a breakdown in the basic understanding that the person in front of you is a human being with real fears and real stakes. The most chilling moment in this whole story isn't the theft itself. It's the moment the narrator realized the woman she was dealing with was willing to gamble with a child's life just to feel like she'd won. If you believe every story is a chance to unpack the complexities of human nature, make sure to subscribe and join the conversation. We'll be back tomorrow with more stories to unpack together. Until then, stay thoughtful.